Starting. Matt, it says we're live now.
Okay.
All right. Okay, take two. Sorry about that, everyone. Well, let me go ahead and get started since we're a couple minutes behind. So I'm going to introduce to you Ryan Maguire. Ryan is the digital content strategist for the University of Delaware. So all of the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, everything, he is the person day to day doing all the posts, moderating the community. So when it comes time to figure out how to launch a new platform to go international, Ryan was our point person for that. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan and give him a few minutes to talk about a few of the things he's done, and then we'll open it up to probably 2 rounds of questions. Ryan?
Hello. Thanks, Meredith.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me? Everyone can hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for having me. This is really exciting. All right, well, thank you for introducing me, Meredith. It's great to meet everyone. As Meredith said, I am the digital content strategist at the University of Delaware in the Office of Communications and Marketing. I work with Meredith, and we have a colleague named Kelly Bregenzer, and we pretty much oversee social media strategy for the entire institution. So, as you can tell by the name of tonight's discussion, we're going to talk about going global and how we did that at UD using social media. So Meredith, I can start talking about kind of how we started and where we are now, if that's okay. Yeah? Okay. All right. So in 2010, which is before I came to the university, UD social media managers at the time realized that during winter session, there was a lack of activity. I mean, not much going on campus, which resulted in not much going on social media. So what they would notice is that they would build up all this momentum during the fall with all this great content, interactive and engaging, and then that would drop off in the winter, and then we'd have to work and start over in the spring. So it just was happened to be the perfect timing that during winter session that we do study abroad, which we're very proud about at the University of Delaware, one of the first institutions, or the first institution to have a study abroad program. So we figured it'd be a great way to celebrate that and then also share great content with our audience during a time when not much is going on campus. So Dare to Explore started, like I said, in 2010. Over the past 4 years, we've had hundreds of students participate. They sign up to work as global study ambassadors. So while they're traveling all around the world, they're working with us and sending us pictures and updates, which we then share with our social media audiences on mainly Facebook and Twitter. So that was our first kind of step into going global with UD social media. And now just recently, this past fall, we got onto our first international social media platform, which was Weibo. As many of you know, it's very similar to it's a Chinese equivalent to Twitter and Facebook. In China, they don't have Twitter or Facebook, so we realized that there was a huge audience that we were missing out on reaching, and decided that in conjunction with a planned Chinese version of our website, that we would also embark on going international with social media, and that's where we are right now, and I'd be happy to take your questions or talk further.
All right, that sounds good. Well, I know everybody's prepared some questions after reading your 2 blog posts about the things you just discussed, so we'll get started first with David and let him ask the first question.
Okay.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, David.
Thank you very much for joining us this evening. My first question is around kind of the challenges of language and translation and going global in the Dare to Explore program and Weibo. Can you kind of address how much of a challenge that was, and does it continue to be a challenge, and you know, kind of what you saw and lessons learned?
Sure. As far as Dare to Explore goes, that has been fairly easy with the language because it's most of our English-speaking students who are going to other countries and sending us back English updates for us to share with our English-speaking audience. So when we got on Weibo, was definitely a challenge. First of all, I mean, we have everyone who basically runs this UD social media account. We're all doing it in English. We don't really, as far as I know, we have not been able to find anyone who is managing an official account who speaks Chinese. So that was definitely, I mean, it's a hurdle and continues to be. So we reached out to, we looked for an intern because we knew we were going to need help. So we were able to find a Chinese-speaking intern who already had some good marketing experience, and she's a graduate student. So we found an intern to help us kind of take our first steps into Weibo. I mean, at least understand what we were looking at on the pages and what people do with the platform and that kind of stuff. Because she's a native user. She uses it. She has friends who use it back home. She's from China. So that was how we started. After that, I mean, she kind of helped us get an understanding of what it was. So we got onto it, and she is mainly the one that is posting there for us. A lot of the messages, some of them I'll come up with. A lot of it is she just will find out what's going on campus, and she just knows what the Chinese audience wants to see, and she can more easily communicate with them than we can. So that is a challenge. And then we had, if you did see the blog post that I wrote, the whole verification process for Weibo presented another huge challenge because we had to write all these documents in Chinese. So what we did, we reached out to the University of Michigan, who had already gone through this process, and we used what they wrote as a guide. I wrote it in English, and then we had our intern translate into Chinese. Then we sent it over to our Confucius Institute. So we had professors and faculty look over it, confirm that what was on there is what the message that we wanted to say, and then we had to convince our VP of marketing that we had to get her to sign it. So we had to convince her that with this Chinese writing was the kind of message that we wanted to put out there, and then she signed that, and we sent it over, and luckily we did get that account verified.
It's quite the process.
It is.
Quite the
it really
process.
is.
So let me go to the next question with Teresa.
Hi, Ryan. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Wanted to ask, do you find that the Dare to Explore program has as much reach and audience engagement as the normal fall and spring semester content?
Over the course of the 4 years that we've been doing it, we've been able to get it very similar reach-wise, which is great. I mean, it shows that it's working, and we have more students who want to participate every year. We get better content every year, and our audience members seem to engage more every year, which is great. Through the course of a semester, we will have months that are higher than others, weeks and months that are higher. So our reach will sort of peak at different times, whether it's the first weekend back at school or during homecoming. And then we'll kind of see it trail off a little bit, but then Dare to Explore brings it back up. And that is something that we had not seen before, and it helps us not to start from scratch in the spring. So it is comparable now, which is great.
Great, thank you.
Good example of how metrics shape strategy there, just to follow up on our ROI lesson. Next, we will go to Susan.
Hey, Ryan.
Hello.
You talked a little bit about the translating process, and I was curious about just the process for selecting and approving content for the Weibo site. Can you talk about how that's maybe different or more complicated than the process for domestic social media?
Well, first of all, there are similarities in some of the content that we post on domestic and international, Weibo particularly. Sometimes there are things that we use Weibo, we want the Chinese audience to kind of just to get a feel for what an American university is like, because they don't have that experience at all. So when we do have some interesting things going on campus, then I will send out our Chinese intern to go out and get content. Or sometimes I will come up with messages that would be comparable to what we're putting out on Facebook and Twitter and Tumblr and all those accounts. As far as translating goes, she is the native speaker. So she'll put out the messages, and she meets with me once a week to tell me to kind of update me with what she's been putting out there, and then we will go over kind of a plan for the next week too. So as far as translating goes, it's her, and then she has to keep us in the loop as far as the messaging that she's putting out there.
Can I ask a quick follow-up?
Sure.
I'm curious about the cultural differences, and do you work with anyone to understand what how your posts may offend, or how they'll be received in a different culture?
Yes, it's a learning process. We're very, very early on in our kind of international growth period. Very early, and we are taking this time and appreciate the feedback that we get, whether that be from not even just our intern, but just Chinese students on campus who may reach out to us or go through another faculty member and say something about what they saw on Weibo, or people asking questions on Weibo, and then our intern brings them to us, and I can help her answer those. So it is, it's something that we are fairly unfamiliar with, but learning. It's been a great learning experience, I can say that.
Thanks.
I don't know where Meredith went, but I think I'm next. Hi, Ryan.
Hello.
So I think this is kind of a good segue into my question. I was curious more about the metrics that you use to measure success on Weibo. So if you could talk about that, that would be great.
Sure. So I'm sure, as Meredith has mentioned in the class, we look at reach usually on Facebook and Twitter. It really gives you a better idea as compared to just looking at your likes, as to how many people are seeing your content. However, we are so early on in the process with Weibo. We are in that growth period where it is exciting to see the new likes, to see our new followers, which is something that we haven't experienced in several years. Since the UD Facebook and Twitter accounts were first created. I'm sure that's what they were looking at when those accounts were first created. It was fun to see your follower numbers grow, but after a while, you have to start using strategy that will increase your reach. But we're early enough in our Weibo presence that we are basically just looking at the number of users grow. What I talked about, the verification process, that played a huge part in gaining more audience members on Weibo. Chinese audience, especially they really they hold that V, that verification V. It's similar. They have it on Facebook and Twitter. They hold that in really high regard. So before we were verified, we were posting for several months, but most of the questions we were getting were, "Is this real? Is this really the University of Delaware?" So people were hesitant to follow us. Since we did get verified just a few weeks ago, we've seen our user numbers grow by several hundred, which is exciting. Again, reach is the most important metric, I think, when measuring success, but right now it is exciting to see the number of followers on our Weibo account grow, and that's how we're measuring success right now.
Great, thank you.
Okay, so I'm taking over because Meredith got banned from the internet or something.
Oh, no.
I don't know what happened, but she got kicked out of the Hangout. But the Hangout is actually still going live, and I don't know how because she's actually the owner, but we'll figure it out later, I guess. So it's fine. So who's next? Hold on. I don't think I have the right list here. Give me a second. I'm actually looking at the Google Documents to see the order of the questions. So Sarah, you just asked yours, so it would be Lori's turn. You're muted. Yeah, give us a second, Ryan.
Okay.
Lori, you gotta unmute yourself. You probably need to press the middle of your screen and find the microphone button. She's on an iPad, so. No. Can you use the chat to ask your questions? There's a chat button on the side. You probably can't because you're on an iPad. Yeah, you're going to have to unmute yourself. Can't tell how it's going to work, so. Can someone from, hold on, can someone from the team maybe paste the question in a document? Because some people are on the Google Doc.
I can read it.
Okay.
I have it up. It looks like her question was, what's the biggest challenge managing social media for an organization like the University of Delaware at the global level?
Right now, it's challenging. It's exciting, but I would say that our teams, I mean, just our ambition and the goals that we want to reach right now, are kind of, I mean, they're out of reach because of the amount of resources